Minecraft 1.20 is the Trails and Tails update with archaeology, armor trims, the Sniffer and Camel mobs, calibrated Sculk sensors and amethyst resonance, cherry groves, 2 new wood sets, hanging signs, and more. My name is Slime and I'm here to give you the best possible look on the changes coming in this version. Some of the features in this update have been available as experimental in previous versions, but they'll now be available in all new worlds. Upgrading an old world with the experimental pack enabled will make them convert into non-experimental worlds. Let's start our tale of the trails with archaeology. The brush is a new tool crafted from a feather, a copper ingot, and a stick in a vertical line. It is used by using the interact or use button, by default right-click, rather than punching with it. The brush is used on new blocks called Suspicious Sand and Suspicious Gravel. You can find them in some structures. Suspicious Sand can be found in a new collapsed room in desert temples, as well as in desert wells and warm ocean ruins. It looks suspiciously much like sand, but with some suspicious darker splotches on it. Suspicious. You can find Suspicious Gravel in cold ocean ruins and a brand new structure called Trail Ruins, a buried structure from a lost culture. The top of this structure pokes up slightly out of the ground, while most of it is buried and has to be dug up to be explored. This is a showcase of how the whole structure can look underground, and to find its treasures you'll have to use the brush. When you use a brush on a suspicious sand or gravel, it will go through 4 different stages of becoming darker and more broken looking, while an item slowly appears out of the surface you brush. After the process is done, the block turns to regular sand or gravel, and the item pops out. If you instead mine a suspicious block, it vanishes into nothing. It also does fall like regular sand and gravel, but when it lands, it will also vanish. Brushing any other block than suspicious sand or gravel does nothing. So what do you get when you brush it? That depends on the structure you found the block in. One of the main attractions for archaeology is a new type of item called a pottery sherd. These come in 20 different variants distributed over the 5 different archaeology sites. There's also a new item called a decorated pot, which is crafted from 4 bricks. You can switch any of the bricks out for a pottery sherd, which replaces that side with a decorated piece depending on the sherd you used. To see the names of the sherds used to craft the pot, hover over it in the inventory. The block is directional, so the same design can be turned in any direction. Sides made from bricks will be blank. Breaking a decorated pot with a silk touch tool gives you the pot, and so does breaking it with your fist or an item which is not a tool. Breaking it with any tool smashes it, giving you back the sherds used to craft it. There's more important loot you can get from archaeology too. The Sniffer egg can be found by brushing suspicious sand in warm ocean ruins. More on that later. You can find a new music disc as rare loot in trail ruins. We'll get back to that as well. You can also find 4 variants of a new item called a smithing template in the trail ruins. So, let's talk about those new smithing templates. The smithing table has been changed. You now have 3 input slots instead of 2. The first one being for a new item called a smithing template. These templates can be found in structures all over the world. To upgrade a diamond piece to netherite, you'll need a netherite upgrade smithing template, which can be found in some bastion remnant chests, with one being guaranteed in a treasure room bastion chest. A number of other new smithing templates have been added. Each one of these is a pattern for adding a trim to an armor piece. A trim pattern, an armor piece, and a metal ingot or crystal item combine into a pattern on the armor depending on the smithing template used, and a color depending on the mineral used. When placing these items in the smithing table, you can also see a preview on an armor stand of how the resulting item will look. The icon for the trimmed armor is always the same regardless of which pattern was used. These trims are purely there to make you look absolutely fabulous. They offer no change to gameplay. Hovering your cursor over a trimmed item in the inventory will show you what pattern and material was used. You can use a wide range of materials to apply the trim to your armor pieces. The available colors are iron, copper, gold, lapis, emerald, diamond, netherite, redstone, amethyst, and quartz. If you use the same trim material as the armor you're applying the trim to, you'll get a slightly darker color for the pattern. Armor trims can also be applied to leather armor. That means you can also combine dyed leather armor with all colors of armor trims. Very colorful. When you craft the armor trim onto the armor, all the inputs are consumed. However, you can also duplicate the templates before using them. That is done in a crafting table by placing the template, 7 diamonds and a stone of the base type for that template. This gives you back 2 smithing templates. There are 16 different armor trim smithing templates. The different patterns are unique per structure, so you'll need to loot a number of different places to get all the possible patterns. Also, the chances of getting these aren't uniform, so some will be harder to get than others. I've made another video showcasing all of the combinations of armor materials, patterns, and the trim materials that you can check out if you want all the details. But let's look at a showcase of all the trims and where to find them. The new trail ruins can have 4 of them: Wayfinder, Razor, Shaper, and Host. They all belong to the rare loot table for Archaeology, and to duplicate any of them, you will need a terracotta block. The Sentry armor trim is found in pillager outposts and duplicated using cobblestone. The Dune armor trim is found in desert pyramids, duplicated with sandstone. The Coast armor trim is found in shipwrecks. You'll want a cobblestone to duplicate this one. Jungle temples can have the Wild armor trim, which is duplicated using mossy cobblestone. The Tide armor trim is a drop from Elder Guardians in ocean monuments and duplicated using prismarine. Woodland mansions contain the Vex armor trim, which is duplicated using cobblestone. Ancient cities can contain the Ward and the Silence armor trims, where Silence is significantly more rare. Both of these are duplicated using cobbled deep slate. In the Nether you can find the Rib armor trim as Nether Fortress loot, and duplicated using netherrack. Bastion remnants can have the Snout armor trim, which is duplicated using blackstone. Strongholds can have the Eye armor trim, that is duplicated using endstone. And finally, the Spire armor trim is found in end cities and is duplicated using purpur blocks. One last thing before we move on from the trims. Having gold trim on your armor is not fancy enough to pacify piglins. A first version of this Sniffer mob that won the latest mob vote makes its first appearance in this version. The Sniffer egg can now be found using a brush on suspicious sand in warm ocean ruins. You can place this egg on a moss block to have it hatch into a snifflet, which takes approximately 10 minutes. If you place it on another block, it will still hatch, but takes twice as long to do so. The Sniffer is a passive mob with 14 health, that is 7 hearts. He's a large boy covering just shy of a 2x2 full blocks. They lumber around, sniffing in the air, and sometimes they will also dig for seeds. This makes one of 2 new items pop out, a torchflower seed or a pitcher pod. The torchflower seed can then in turn be used to tempt sniffers and fed to them to make them breed, which makes a sniffer egg pop out in item form. Baby sniffers also eat torchflower seeds, making them grow up slightly faster. You can also plant the torchflower seeds in farmland like other seeds. This plants a torchflower crop, which goes through an intermediate stage before becoming a fully grown torchflower. Harvesting the crop when in the first 2 stages gives you back the seeds. Harvesting the fully grown flower gives you the flower itself. It can be planted on dirt-like blocks like other flowers, placed in flower pots, or crafted into orange dye. Torchflowers can also be used as an ingredient for suspicious stews, which gives you a night vision effect. Its name is a lie, by the way. The torchflower does not light up its environment. If you plant the pitcher pod in farmland, it becomes a pitcher crop, which has 5 growth stages before becoming a fully grown pitcher plant, a 2-block tall plant. Like the torchflower, if you break it before it's fully grown, you get the pod back. This flower can also be planted, but like other 2-block tall flowers, cannot be placed in a flower pot. It can also be crafted into 2 pieces of cyan dye. The second new mob of the Trails and Tales update is the Camel, a new passive mob with 32 health, that is 16 hearts. A single camel generates naturally with each desert village. Camels will follow a player holding cactus and can be fed cactus to heal and breed. They also heal very slowly over time on their own. If you saddle a camel, it can be ridden by 2 players, where the first player steers and the second player is free to do other things, such as fighting. They are tall, so player height mobs will not be able to reach players on top of a camel, and they have long enough legs to step over fences. They'll randomly lay down though, and need to slowly get up before moving. Lazy camels! When riding a camel, they can either walk slowly or sprint. They also have a dash move, activated using the jump button. This is a yeet forwards rather than a leap upwards, and using it drains the camel's stamina. A dash can extend more than 10 blocks when executed perfectly. After dashing, the camel cannot sprint or dash again until it has recovered, which takes a few seconds. Hey, while these lazy camels get up, you have a moment to drop a quick like on the video. These videos take a huge amount of time to make, and every single like does help out in the vicious game that is the YouTube algorithm, so I'd really appreciate it. Let's move on to the big world generation change in this version, the Cherry Grove biome. This is a new mountain biome that can be found in similar locations as the meadows. It is covered in cherry trees with bright pink leaves and a new type of logs, cherry logs. These tree trunks fork or bend high up and are then covered in large, round canopies of cherry leaves. They also sometimes spawn with bee nests. Cherry logs come with a new wood set, including logs and stripped logs, wood and stripped wood, planks, stairs, slabs, fences and fence gates, doors and trapdoors, buttons, pressure plates, signs and hanging signs, and boats and chest boats. Cherry leaves have pink particles falling underneath, and on the ground of the cherry grove you can find a new type of vegetation, pink petals. In addition to finding the pink petals on the ground, you can also obtain them by bone mealing the block or by bone mealing a grass block in the Cherry Grove biome. Each block can contain up to 4 petals. When broken, you get back as many petals as there are in the block. These can be placed in any orientation on top of a block, and placing more than one into the same block increases the amount of petals in it, which also happens if you apply bone meal to it. You can also craft the petals into pink dye. Cherry saplings are planted and grown like most other saplings and can also be placed in flower pots. Cherry wood isn't the only wood set in this update. Bamboo blocks can now be created by crafting from 3x3 bamboo items. These blocks act like log blocks of bamboo. You can strip them to get a stripped version, and you can craft them into planks, although you only get 2 planks from this as opposed to the 4 you get for other wood types. These can then be crafted into all the regular wood items, including doors, trapdoors, stairs, slabs, fences, fence gates, buttons, pressure plates, and signs. There's also a mosaic plank variant crafted by placing 2 bamboo slabs on top of each other. These can then be crafted into slabs and planks with the normal recipes. Bamboo can also be used to craft boats and chest boats, but they have a unique model and name. Instead of being bamboo boats, they are bamboo rafts. They work just like any other boat though. There's a new type of sign in this version. Hanging signs are made of 6 stripped logs and 2 chains, which gives you 6 hanging signs. They are available for all types of wood. Hanging signs can be hung underneath blocks with wide support where you get 2 vertical chains. You can also hang them on a solid side of a block or the side of another hanging sign, in which case you get a horizontal support rod. A third way is to hang them underneath a block without wide support, in which case the chains both go to a single support point on top. This also works to hang hanging signs under other hanging signs. Signs in this configuration can also be placed in 16 different angles as opposed to the other hanging sign placements that can only be placed in the 4 cardinal directions. If you want that type of placement even when a supported placement is available, you can sneak while placing the sign to always place it with the angled chains. Like regular signs, hanging signs have no collision. However, when they have a support rod, that rod does have collision. If the hanging sign is hanging off the side of a block, it will remain floating in the air if that block is broken. But if it's hanging underneath a block, it will pop off immediately if that block is broken. Just like a regular sign, the text written on the sign is on the front and the backside starts out blank. One difference is that the space available for text is a bit smaller than on a regular sign. In other aspects, the hanging sign works just like a regular sign. You can dye them using dyes and make them glow using glow ink. And just like regular signs, they can also be waterlogged. There's also new functionality for all signs in this version. You can now edit the text of a sign after it has been placed in the world. This is done by right-clicking to interact with the sign. You can also do this to the back side of a sign to add different text to that side. This works for both regular signs and the hanging signs. Changing the color of the text with dye or making it glow with a glow ink sac applies only to the side you're aiming at, so you can have different colors on the front and back sides. You can now also use a honeycomb item to wax a sign, making it impossible to change. This makes both sides impossible to edit, color, or glow. Signs that have any kind of special mapmaker text can never be edited. Our next new Trails and Tales block is the Chiseled Bookshelf. This is a new block crafted from 6 of any type of plank and 3 of any type of wooden slab, where the slabs go where books would go in the regular bookshelf recipe. This gives you an empty bookshelf that can be placed and used to store books, that is regular books, enchanted books, writable books, written books, and knowledge books. Each bookshelf stores up to 6 books. Aim at the slot you want to place a book in and interact with a book to place it in the shelf. Interacting while aiming at a book already in the shelf takes it back out. There's also comparator interaction with the bookshelf. A comparator will output a signal strength matching that of the book slot that was last interacted with. This means once a book has been placed in the shelf, the signal strength can never drop below 1 again. Sculk sensors can also interact with chiseled bookshelves. Placing or removing a book causes a vibration that a Sculk sensor can detect. A hopper pointed into the top or any side of the bookshelf will insert books starting from the top left. A hopper underneath it will pull them out in the same order. You can also use a dropper pointed into the chiseled bookshelves to place books into it. Unlike regular bookshelves, chiseled bookshelves do not increase the power of enchanting tables. The right tool to mine a chiseled bookshelf is an axe. Doing so will make any books inside spill out on the ground just as if you had mined a chest. However, using a regular axe, the bookshelf itself vanishes. You have to use Silk Touch for it to drop. The Trails and Tales update also introduces a new version of the Sculk sensor, called a Calibrated Sculk sensor. This is a new block crafted from a Sculk sensor and 3 amethyst shards. Once placed, the Calibrated Sculk sensor has an input side that accepts a redstone signal, and the strength of that signal determines the only vibration frequency that the sensor will react to. Calibrated Sculk sensors detect vibrations up to 16 blocks away compared to the 8 blocks detected by regular Sculk sensors, and their timing is shorter. The regular redstone output of both types of Sculk sensors has also been modified to make them more reliable for determining distances. The distance calculation is now always based on the number of full blocks of distance, where the source within a block no longer matters. They now also strongly power the block they're placed on. The timings have been changed to be active in 30 ticks for the Sculk sensor and 10 ticks for the Calibrated Sculk sensor. That is 1.5 seconds and half a second respectively. Both types of sensor then have a 10-tick cooldown, that is half a second. Previously, Sculk sensors were active for 40 ticks and only had a single tick of cooldown. This isn't all, however. Another mechanic has been added called Amethyst Resonance. Blocks of amethyst placed next to a Sculk sensor will now relay any vibration that sensor detects at the same frequency. This allows you to forward vibration signals over longer distances without losing the frequency. Together with this, vibration frequencies have been revamped to a simpler set. Here are the new frequency groups. 1 for movement on land, in water, or in the air. 2 for landing on any solid or fluid. 3 for item interactions. 4 for gliding with elytra or unique mob actions like a Ravager's Roar. 5 for dismounting a mob or equipping gear. 6 for mounting or interacting with mobs. 7 for mobs and players getting damaged. 8 for consuming items. 9 for blocks deactivating. 10 for blocks activating. 11 for blocks changing. 12 for blocks being destroyed. 13 for blocks being placed. 14 for mobs and players teleporting or spawning. And 15 for mobs and the players dying and explosions. Sculk Shriekers have also been updated. Waterlogging a Shrieker now silences its shriek, but keeps all other effects. There's also new functionality for mob heads in the Trails and Tales update. Piglins will now drop their heads when killed by a charged creeper, in the same way, for instance, zombies and skeletons already did. When powered by redstone, its ears will wiggle and the same animation will play when a player who is wearing the head runs around. When placing any mob head on top of a note block, that note block will sound like the ambient sounds of that mob. Interacting with the block or powering it with redstone will play a random selection of that ambient sound. This update also adds 8 new advancements. Smells interesting for obtaining a sniffer egg. Little sniffs for feeding a snifflet. Planting the past for planting any sniffer seed. Those 3 are all in the husbandry tab. There are also 5 new adventure advancements. Respecting the remnants for brushing a suspicious block to obtain a pottery sherd. Careful restoration for making a decorated pot out of 4 pottery sherds. Crafting a new look for crafting a trimmed armor at a smithing table. Smithing with style for applying these 8 smithing templates at least once. And the power of books is awarded for placing a comparator that reads the strength of a chiseled bookshelf. Breeding sniffers and camels is now also required for the 2x2 advancement, and cherry groves are now required for the adventuring time advancement. Let's look at a crafting change in this update. Wool blocks, carpets and beds can now be colored regardless of what color they already have. Crafting any color of wool block, carpet or bed with 1 dye in any shape will now result in a re-dyed version of the block. This also means the recipe for dyeing 8 carpets at once no longer exists. Moving on to gameplay changes, let's start by talking about loot. The game now uses deterministic random sequences for generating loot drops for things that previously were not tied to the world seed, like mob drops, bartering and fishing. This means that in a world of a given seed, you will always get the same loot in the same order. A change in this version to enchanting. You can now have replaceable blocks like grass or dead bushes between an enchanting table and the surrounding bookshelves and still get the level up on the enchanting table. You can now remove the custom name from an item by blanking out the name in an anvil. This gives it back its original name, but it will still not stack with an entirely unnamed item of the same type. A very old bug has been fixed involving which block a player is touching. Previously that would only be the block under the center of the player. Now it will be the first block the player collides with. Another very old bug with nether portals has been fixed. When you arrive on the other side after using one, the portal effect will now fade away instead of becoming overpowering and staying on screen. And shields now once again block the damage from TNT explosions. Jump boost, slow falling and levitation now apply to mounts such as horses properly. Saddled horses no longer infinitely keep the levitation effect, and riding an entity with slow falling will now properly stop fall damage. A change has been made to how kills are counted. That means the last player to attack a target is now always counted as the killer for the purpose of the death message, statistics and advancements. In chat and text news, there is an updated version of the Unicode font in the game. That enables a whole load of new characters of the last decade, including, of course, emojis. There's no simple way of writing out emojis like in some chat applications, so if you want to enter an emoji, you'll need to use some external input, like copy-pasting, or using the emoji finder on Windows with the Windows key and period. Some user interface changes. The application icon for the game has been updated. It will now be a grass block in full release versions and a dirt block in snapshot versions. The Minecraft logo has also been updated, and there's a new main menu background showing a Trails and Tales panorama of a cherry grove biome. 6 new splash texts have been added. This sand is sus. Joel is neat too. Remember to brush your teeth. Has working bookshelves. Sniff sniff. And place hanging sign here. 2 new languages have been added. Lao and Yakut. And the Minecraft credits have been updated, including a new function where you can hold the up arrow to reverse the scroll direction. There's also a new function in the video settings screen. You can now change the UI scale by holding Control and using the scroll wheel. In music news, there are 4 new music tracks for the general soundtrack. All these tracks are by Aaron Cherov and play in various combinations of overworld biomes. The tracks are A Familiar Room, Bromeliad, Crescent Dunes. And Echo in the Wind. There's also a new music disc, Relic, also by Aaron Cheroff. You can find it as rare loot in the Trail Ruins, where it is one of the 12 possible loot items from Archaeology. If you play it in a jukebox, you get a comparator output of level 14. Let's wrap up this huge update with some performance news. There's now native support for ARM64 Windows computers. If you have a Windows ARM64 computer like some of the Surface laptops, this should noticeably increase your performance. Another thing that should mean increased performance is a brand new light engine. This is the part of the game responsible for how light spreads from light sources, and should mean much improved performance and fixes for many light-related glitches. And that wraps up our tour of Minecraft 1.20, the Trails and Tales update. My name is Sliced Lime, thank you for letting me be your tour guide today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.